Hello friends, in this video I am going to explain about the parse delimited rule in Pega. What is the use of parse delimited rule in the real time? So in real time nowadays most of the applications are interacting with other applications and exchanging the data. Even Pega application is communicating or interacting with other systems are interacting with Pega applications, and even Pega applications are processing the file data. Pega applications are connecting to the remote machines. So ultimately, if Pega receives any type of data response, Pega receives any type of data response. If you want to process that response or if you want to process that data, we should not blindly process the data. We should not blindly process the data. While while processing, we have to parse the data. We have to parse the data. Just give me one. Let me explain with one example. For example, I have created a one application for SBI Bank. Already they are using. Tomorrow, SBI Bank come back to the Pega developer. So I have a lot of customer data. I have a lot of customer data. What you have to do is you have to process this customer data. You have to process this customer data, but you have to only take customer ID and customer name, and you can ignore the remaining data. This is the requirement. So what we have to do, for example, this is my customer data. This is my customer data, blah blah blah. This is my customer data. Okay. While processing this data, you have to parse the data first. You have to parse the data. So that means I want only first two fields. I have to ignore remaining data. I have to only first two fields remaining, ignore the data, like this. And I got a response from the external system like this: Suresh, customer ID, 90, blah blah, and loan amount is 9,000, blah blah. Email is suresh@gmail.com. For example, if I am fetching this response from the Kafka system, assuming from the Kafka system, so you have to process this response. How do you process this response? That means you have to parse this response, and you have to save the response into the you you have to save the response in your Pega application. So ultimately, whatever the response or whatever the data, ultimately this is a data. So whatever the data you want to process, while processing, you have to parse the data and you have to map the data. You have to parse the data and you have to map the data. Okay. So how can you parse and mapping this data into the clipboard in Pega? Ultimately, I got this response. Now my requirement is, what I have to do? I have to map these fields of data into the Pega clipboard. How do you achieve this one? Okay, sir, we can achieve by using like this. We can split at comma. Finally, the split will returns into the array list of four values. We can loop four values. And we can set it into the clipboard properties. We can set it into the clipboard properties 1 and clipboard properties 2, etc. Each and every value. Okay. So for this you need to write some logic. And sometimes also you need to write a logic in Java as well. But forget about all these things. Pega has provided a one built-in rule type called it as a parse delimited rule. Parse delimited rule mostly used in file processing. Parse delimited rules are using mostly while file processing data. I mean to say, whenever you want to process the data in a file, in those use cases, these parse delimited rule will be more useful. So let me, for example, uh, I have a real-time data. My real-time data is like this: Suresh and customer ID 7890 and Suresh at the rate of gmail.com, and the loan amount is 89, like this. Now the requirement is you have to map this data into the customer ID, customer name, customer ID, customer email, and customer loan amount. Like this, you have to map this data. So how can you achieve this? In my previous logic, I need to write some logic in Java, etc. Blah blah blah. Then I can handle it. But as I told you, Pega is provided a one built-in rule type, call it as a parse delimited rule. In the real time, these are very important. Why? Because nowadays we are always interacting with the data. We are always processing the data. We are getting the data, or we are getting the responses from the different systems, and we have to process that response. So just go to login into your dev studio, go to I'm taking this my insurance claim class here. Just click on right click on create. There is a integration mapping. See this one, integration mapping. This is mapping rules, parse delimited rule. In my one of the video, I have already explained about the parse xml and xml stream rule, and I have already covered eform file and map eform. Now I am going to explain about the parse delimited rule. Okay, now map customer details. Map customer details. Record type is uh, record type is customer. Now, as usually, rule set version, application, click on create and open. I am not going to explain about a class name. That is your wish. You want to keep it in the framework classes, organization classes, division classes, etc. That is your wish for reusability. This is the parse delimited rule configuration. We have only one tab in this. We don't have multiple tabs. Let's see. See this one here, field description. Here, what is this one? Field description or a field format. Field description or a field format. Here it is a custom description, sorry, custom definition or comma separated values. So if the incoming response, based on the incoming response, you have to define the field description, the field format based on the incoming response, how you want to process that incoming response. For example, if my incoming response is like this, then obviously it is a comma separated values, right? Then you can use it a comma separated values, or else you can directly use the custom definition like this delimiter. This is called it as a delimiter, or this is nothing but a separator. Sometimes in the real time, if the data is coming like this, Suresh at the rate of, or Suresh hash, or 79 hash, then Suresh at the rate of gmail.com hash loan amount. In such a cases, this comma separated values will not be useful, because obviously you have to go for custom definition, then you have to use the delimited is hash. This is nothing but a separator. Okay, right now I am going to use, what is the use of escape character means, very important, very important. Sometimes for example, Suresh at the rate of Suresh if they are not providing hash, Suresh at the rate gmail.com, assuming like this, obviously what you felt, okay, Suresh is first field, that's fine, and 8900 is the second field. But what we are assuming, Suresh hash at the rate of gmail.com is third value and 9000 is the fourth value. So in that case, what you have to do is you have to mention like this. You have to mention like this. If you mention backslash, what Pega will do is Pega will consider this is a one field and this is another field and this is another field and this is the fourth field, or else if you did not mention the backslash, Pega will consider it as a separate field. So that's why this escape character is very important, optional character used to escape the delimiter. See this one, to escape the delimiter. So that is also depends upon the type of response which is coming from the different systems, or etc. Now what I am doing in my case, this is my input source. This is my input source. So I am going with the comma separated values. Now here processing method, we have a processing method. We have obviously four methods. One is use parse details and build value list. More frequently used these two only, use parse details and build value list. Forget about build tag list and use tag list. So Pega, but anyhow I'll explain. Let's see first. Use parse details. Use parse details. See this one, drain. Drain remaining data. Drain means wastage. Drain means ignore. So for example, in the washing machine, there is a draining, right? Wastewater will go into the, okay. So same as draining, only you can consider what you can consider whatever the fields you want, and you can drain or you can ignore the remaining data. For example, in my case, these are the 1 2 3 4 5 fields, and there is another field, country India. So I don't want to use this field, but anyhow the data is coming from the external system, or if the data is present in a file, what shall I do? I want only consider these fields. So that's why drain remaining data. Then parsing details. Description, just customer name, map to. So our requirement is map to, right? We have to map this value. We have to map this value to map to here. See how many types of options here. You want to map to clipboard, or you want to map to a separate XML parse rule, or a delimited another parse rule, structured parse rule, or you want to map to this function, etc. So in my requirement, you can use any of these. Select a map to value. I want to map to a clipboard. Okay. So which property or which key you want to map? I want to map to first name, assuming I want to map to first name. Now I can add remaining. Now customer ID. Then again map to clipboard. Here map to customer ID. I can take it as I don't have any customer ID fields. Temporarily I can uh, first name, right? Temporarily I want to map it to answer one. Now customer email. Customer email. This is also mapped to clipboard. Map to clipboard. And is there any email field? Okay. Is there any email field? Okay. Send email. Okay. Let's see all these properties are present or not. Okay. Send email is true or false. Okay. Leave it. So py email. Just any OOTP properties also fine, right? Or else you can create your own properties. Okay. Py. Okay. py email type, just I don't want to create a properties. Next one is loan amount, right? Customer loan amount. Now map to clipboard, or you can use XML parse rule. you can select XML parse rule, then you can map this property value or you can map this response value to this XML parse rule. Now the loan type or loan amount. Okay. Now here instead of customer ID, okay, fine. Just click on save. That's it. Now action run. You can run it from here as well. You can run it from here as well. Basically, we will use this in the file processing, file listeners, especially in the real time. Okay. Now that's why I see this one. If you want, you can give the file or you can use a rule file text, the rule name, or if you want you can provide a text as well. You can run from here as well, and there is a you can run, you can test or you can run this rule from an activity. I will show you. Okay. Now here just I'll give it as it is. I'll give it as it is. Click on execute. Click on execute. Success. Now just see in the clipboard, just see in the clipboard, always standard thread, always standard thread, and run record primary page. Okay, but it was successfully. One second. Again, let me run this one. Selecting a file text to be parsed and click on execute. Localhost operation completed successfully. Whether it was set into the clipboard or not, we will see. Okay, where we can see. Actually, I have given all these properties should be set under the insurance claim class only, right? Because comma, separated values, etc., loan amount, map, customer details. Okay. So now in the clipboard, where can we find out this one? It is success message is coming. Mm, You can run from here. Okay, now let's go to the standard thread. Where is my class? Rule file text py work page. Mhm. Okay, what we can do is somewhere definitely data should be mapped into the clipboard, right? When I run this file, all the properties should be mapped. So in which page context it is mapping? Which page context it is mapping? Okay, now I'll do one thing. Uh, I'll create one activity. Let me create a one activity under this insurance claim class. Click on create technical. Go to the records. Technical activity. From this activity, I want to test this parse delimited rule. Now click on create a text file. Click on create test act as usually here in the class. SBI. Where is this insurance claim? Click on create and open. You can run this from an activity. So here first one is property set. This is my input string. Property dot py text. You can give whatever the property. If you want, you can choose it as a for example, you can choose it as answer 2 or answer 1. What we have given here. Okay, here we have given answer 1. So now what I'm doing is I'm just setting my input string value into the answer 2 like this. Now what I can do is, next one, there is a one method called it as apply parse delimited. Apply parse delimited. Now here, now what is the namespace and what is the record type and what is the source property? First source property is dot answer 2. Answer 2. This one is the source property, right? Yes. Now what is the record type? I have given customer. What is the namespace? Map customer details. Map customer details. Just run it. Just run it. Action, run. Now standard thread as usually. Now success. Open the clipboard now. Now as usually run record primary page. This one run record primary page. See this one, all these values, py, email type, loan amount, first name and answer 1. I have given the input string is answer 2. So using this parse delimited rule, you can map that response easily. You can map this response easily because you can ignore the remaining fields. You can simply ignore the India value. You can simply ignore the India value. Now what I can do is just go back this time. If the data is coming like this, if the data is coming Suresh at the rate 7890 at the rate, now Suresh at the rate of gmail.com, now at the rate India at the rate. If the data is coming like this, how do you parse it? You are assuming, okay, this is one value and this is another value, and actually you are assuming this is another value and this is another value. Total 5 values. We can ignore the last value. But what I'm going to do is in the field description, this time I'm going to use the custom definition. Now the delimiter is at the rate. You must have passed the escape character. You must have passed the escape character. Now let's see what will happen. Just check out. Let's check out. Now see this one. I'm just giving the input string is like this. In my test activity, I am giving the input string is Suresh. Instead of comma, I can give it as at the rate. Here I can give it as at the rate. Here I can give it as at the rate. And you can give it as at the rate. Let's test it. Now actions, run. Click on run. In the clipboard. Now run record primary page. py work page, sorry, run record primary page. So input string this one, what is this one? First name Suresh, that is fine. And email type, see, email type is also Suresh, and loan amount is gmail.com. That is not correct, right? So that means your parsing logic is correct, but the incoming response is not correct. The incoming response is not correct. That's what I'm saying. You are assuming Suresh is one value, 7890 is one value, Suresh at the rate of gmail.com is another value. But what Pega assumed, you have given the delimited value is You have given the delimited value at the rate, but you have given the escape character is slash. So that is the problem. What you have to do, you have to give the escape character here, because you are assuming the entire value is 1. It's not like Suresh is one value. After that, at the rate of symbol, it again splitting at the rate gmail.com is one value. But your intention is this is complete email as a one value. Now that's why this backslash is very, very important. Backslash, placing the backslash in the response string is very, very important. Just click on save now. Otherwise, it will treat it as a different characters. So what happened now? Suresh, okay, this is fine, right? Suresh at the rate 7890 at the rate Suresh at the rate. Okay, just click on save. Answer to, okay, you must give the backslash. Okay, this is not correct. It should be backslash only. Or you can give it as a different. Okay, you just give like this. Now action, run, clipboard. Now run record, primary page. Now see this one. Email type is suresh at the rate of gmail.com. Loan amount is 8,900. First name is Suresh, and answer one is, that is nothing but a customer ID 7890. Now I hope you understand the purpose of this backslash characters, which is nothing but escape characters, which is nothing but escape character. So if you did not mention that escape character right in the response string, Pega will parse that entire response in a different way. In a different way, it will split again here as well. It will split again at the rate. So that means you will get email only as Suresh. You will not get it as a at the rate of gmail.com. Okay. So by using this parse delimited rule, you can parse the data. You can parse the data very easily. And here, if you want, you can map to a parameters as well, that is your wish. And map to a clipboard, right here, map to a clipboard. Apart from the clipboard also, you can map to a function, or you can map to another XML parse rule, another structured parse rule. Okay, so now here, this is the parse details. There is a one more tag, call it as a build value list. Build value list. So what I am going to do is, what is the use of build value list? For example, you are getting the bank account numbers. For example, this customer is having the 5 bank account numbers. So like this, 909090, this is one bank account number. 898989, this is another. 787878, this is another. And 565656, this is another bank account number. What you have to do, you have to map these bank accounts. How do you map this one? How do you map this bank accounts? That means, in this requirement, I want to parse all these bank accounts. So this build value list will be useful. Now what I'm going to do is, I want to map all these bank accounts to one property bank accounts list. That's it. Now see this one, build value list, bank accounts list, map to a clipboard. What property? Bank accounts list. Actually this property is not available. Now just create this property, bank accounts list. Now I am using this as a value list. Now value list. Where is this value list? Yeah, value list. What is the type? Value list, text only. Text only. It's not a number. If you want, you can keep it as a number also, no problem. Okay, now that's it. Save. Now go to your activity, run this parse delimited rule. What is your response coming from the another system? Your bank account details, right? Okay, just save. One mistake, come back here, comma separated values, right? There is no need to custom definition. Now run this test activity. Now actions, run, because you cannot save the multiple bank accounts list to a one property. Only value list property can hold those values, value list. If you want, you can use page list also, but again that is a different story, not required here, that will not be suited here. But my requirement is only I want to build a value list. I want to build a value list. Click on run. Okay, now go to the clipboard. Now run record primary page. Okay, this is answer 2. Where is my value list property? Bank account details. See this one, bank account details, bank account list 1, bank account list 2, like this. So in this way you can build a value list, and you can use parse details, and there are two other options as well, build tag list and use tag list. We will not use more frequently, but these functions will use those options. But let me tell you, let me give uh, let me explain about the purpose of those build tag list and use tag list. So what I am going to do is, I'm just selecting build tag list, that's it. You no need to use parsing details, you no need to define the parsing details. Let's just save it. What will happen, you can see it will use the OOTB property py tag list. It will by default use the OOTB property py tag list. Let's test this one. Actions, run, build tag list. Just click on run. Open the clipboard, because you don't need to explicitly define those properties to which property I want to map it. By default Pega will take it in the run record primary page, expand. So in the work class, see this one, py tag list. By default what Pega will do is, it will map to the py tag list OOTB property by default under the work class, under the work class under the work class. So and even use tag list also the same behavior, but see these two are work together. Build tag list and use tag list both are work together while while processing the CSV file data, so for example, in the CSV file, in the CSV file, customer name, comma, customer ID, comma, next one is customer name, customer ID, customer salary, assuming, and what are the values? Customer name Suresh, comma, customer ID is blah blah blah, customer salary is 900. So usually we will keep this data in the CSV file like this. So internally we have a one OOTB functions. Those functions will use this build tag list. Those functions will use these build tag list while processing the CSV file data. So how we will see now. For example, build tag list, right? So what I am going to do, customer name, customer ID, customer salary, home, and just give it as input string to my activity, test activity. That's it. Save. Now actions, run. It will always, you no need to define in the parsing parse delimited rule. By default, it will take the py tag list. In the work class, in the py tag list, see this one, etc. Now what I am going to do now, uh, again next time, customer name is Suresh, customer ID is, customer salary is, just click on save. Now this time what I can do is use tag list. Use tag list. That means already the tag list is already present in the clipboard. Already py tag list already present in the clipboard. Now actions, run. Now clipboard. So work class, py tag list. Suresh answer to save. Apply parse delimited. Map customer details. Use tag list. When you run an activity, it will use the py tag list OOTB property, but it's not setting properly. Now run record primary page. It is setting to customer ID like this. Answer to customer ID, customer name, customer salary. Yeah. But actually these properties would set to the py tag list only when you are using the use tag list. Okay. But focus on more on the use parse details and build value list. We most frequently use this, and Pega will internally use these build tag list and use tag list, especially when processing the CSV file data. We have a OOTB functions. We have a OOTB functions, so those functions will use these rules. Okay, at least I hope you understand how to process the data, how to parse the data using this parse delimited rule. Forget about use tag list and build tag list. Okay, it will use the py tag list OOTB property by default. You no need to define it here. Okay, thank you.